In this unit, Unit 4, our main topic of discussion will be something we call mitosis. And hopefully you maybe have heard this word. If you haven't, it has to do with cell division. So we will talk about one of the ways that cells can divide. In order to start talking about this, however, you've got to understand one very basic concept and why cells have to divide. And it all has to do with cell growth. To start talking about this, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. My first question to you is, are my cells any different from yours? Just because I'm a girl, just because I am older than you, in essence of what makes us up at our cellular level, are my cells any different from yours? Hopefully you're telling me, no, they're not. The reason being is, unless something is maybe genetically wrong with you, all our cells are doing the same job. Our gut cells are secreting bile so that we can digest the food that we just ate. My nerve cells are transmitting information from my fingertips back to my spinal cord and then from my brain out to my mouth, so you're listening to me talk. My muscle cells are contracting as I move my hand to write on slides. Our cells are no different. My second question, are your cells any different from a newborn's? Someone that has just come into this world, that was just born in one of the hospitals in town. Are your cells any different from theirs? This one is a little bit trickier, and it gets to the main difference between cells across gender, across nationality, across whatever it is you want to talk about. So this one is no, but it's also a yes. It's no in the sense that all our cells are doing the same job. We have nerve cells, we have muscle cells, we have skin cells, we have gut cells, we have heart cells, we have lung cells. We have all these cells, and they're all doing the same job. My yes, however, comes from the fact and the main difference between individuals, and specifically think more baby and adult, at the cellular level, is the number of cells someone has. That's the difference. I have more cells than a newborn baby because I'm older. I'm bigger. Therefore, I need more cells. As the baby grows, the baby gets more cells. And eventually, as an adult, we're all going to kind of roughly have the same number. Give or take a few, unless you're, 7 feet tall, and then you're going to have way more cells than I will at 5'3". Largely, though, everyone is the same, except where it comes to the number of cells someone has. And that will slowly fix itself as you age and as you get older and bigger. For my next set of questions, and to talk about cell growth in a little bit different way, I want you to think back to the potato cell lab that we did in Unit 2 that had to do with diffusion and iodine. If you'll recall, you had to cut out 3 cubes from a potato, and then you soak those potatoes in iodine for, I think it was 20 minutes. And then I asked you a couple of questions. According to the coloring of the cell with the iodine, which size cell was the most likely to survive? Which one could go on and live its daily life? The majority of you told me that it was the small cell. And then you had to explain why. Our cells are limited in how big they can become. A lot of you walked away from that lab kind of understanding why our cells are so small. I'm going to give you another reason. But first, my question to you, and see if you can think about it, is why are cells limited on how big they can become? And I'm going to give you 2 main reasons. You already know one of them if you figured it out in Unit 2. If not, here's your chance to figure it out. And then I will give you another reason. So the first big reason of why our cells are so small is the larger a cell becomes, the harder it is for the cell to get enough nutrients or you could also say O2, into the cell. It also affects the cell's ability to get rid of waste. If I am too big, there is no way I can get enough food, get enough oxygen, get enough of the supplies that I need in order to keep myself alive. If I'm having trouble getting stuff in, I will also have trouble getting stuff out. The waste that I create from everyday life as a cell, I won't be able to get it out. So the smaller I am, the more efficient my cell will be at being able to feed itself and being able to cleanse itself by getting rid of waste. The second major reason of why the cells have to be small is the larger a cell becomes, more demands are placed on DNA. The larger size stresses out the DNA so it cannot keep up with the informational needs of the cell. This specifically is called DNA overload. If you think about that, the bigger my cell becomes, my DNA is responsible for more area, more surface area, more volume. That will stress out the DNA so that it cannot maintain its replication rates or protein synthesis rates, and therefore my cell won't get the information that it needs to survive. I won't be able to make some vital proteins that my mitochondria needs in order to do cellular respiration, and therefore I can't break down glucose into ATP so I can get energy for my cell. It has a ripple effect. If I stress out my DNA, I just cause this ripple effect to go through my cell, and I'm going to have a lot more problems than just being big. I'm going to have problems at the molecular DNA level, and that is specifically called DNA overload. So for cells, I have to be little. However, our cells are going to keep growing. They will get bigger. They will grow. So when a cell grows, I have two options. First option, if I grow too big and I don't take advantage of my second option that will be down here. My first option is the cell starves and poisons itself to death because I cannot keep up with the demands of being big. I can't get in enough food, I can't get out enough waste, and I've stressed out my DNA so that it can't do its job. That's my first option. The other option, and the option that your cells will mostly choose, is to do cell division. This year, we will talk about two different types of cell division. In this unit, we are going to talk only about mitosis. And so we'll get into that in a little bit more depth afterwards. Just to give you a brief overview, though, cell division is the process by which a cell divides into two new daughter cells. As we go through this, I need you to remember a couple of different things with cell division. So one thing I need you to remember is before a cell divides, its DNA must be replicated. And this means to copy. I have to make a copy of my DNA before I can do this. The reason being is so each new daughter cell receives a copy of the DNA. Without the DNA, the cell couldn't survive, so I have to be able to put a copy of DNA in each cell. So I have to replicate my DNA. We won't actually talk about replication of DNA until after Christmas. That'll be the unit that we start with right after Christmas. Before I finish up this lecture, I want to ask you a question just like I almost do at every other lecture. I want to know, as a cell grows? Which measurement increases faster? Is it going to be your surface area or the volume? Just as a review, and you'll need this when you get to class because we will be doing an activity with us, remember that surface area is equal to length times width times the number of sides for whatever it is you're measuring. Volume is equal to length times width times height. With those two measurements, you can always come up with a ratio, and your ratio is always your surface area divided by your volume. You will need these three formulas when you get to class, but I want you to also think about, if my cell is increasing, which measurement, my surface area or my volume, increases faster. If you have to do a little bit of math, go back and look at your cell size lab that we did in Unit 2, and maybe that will help you. Other than that, I will see you in class.